Hey, this is for everybody who has already met their karmic soulmate, twin flame, soulmate. And for those of you who are still thinking, who is he? Who is she? Where can I find them? So before I start, I'm going to just explain to you the spread that I have developed for this occasion. So here are the significators that I'm using for this particular reading. Remember, significators mean that this is going to be the same for every sign. The reason why I'm choosing them, it's sort of like the category that I really want to find the answers to, as if you're in a bookstore and you find a book with this title. So let me explain to you the significators that I'm choosing. The first one is Luna. Luna is going to tell me about the darkness and everything that maybe still didn't surface, maybe things that you don't know, maybe things that you should know. Then we have Solar Deity. Solar Deity is going to tell us what you should know. Maybe there is like still somewhere lingering, maybe it is too bright for you, maybe it's too close to your eyes, but you're going to realize that maybe you know that. Then we have Reason. Many of us are asking, why? That's the hardest question as a therapist and as a reader to really answer. Why? Because we people, we don't really make too much sense when it comes to love. So we're going to try to answer it within this card. Then we have the card guidance. Let's see, because it's your mirror soul, what do you need to find out about this person? If you guys still didn't read my introduction to this series, please check somewhere in this corner before you proceed, because it's going to tell you really how and what I see it. I see it as a mirror, and that's why this is called Mirror Healing series. Then we are getting to the Tower, and the Tower is going to tell us about what needs to break. It is like always a time that certain things cannot grow anymore, and maybe they cannot grow because they're not sustainable. Maybe, we need to kind of change us. Maybe they need to change. Whatever it is, we're going to discover it in this category. And the Chariot, a lovely card with pushing it forward. Where do we go? Which turn do we take? And then let's check the significance of all of this. Two of Chalices. Is there a kiss that is going to happen? Or what at this point of time is karma telling us? So, guys, shall we start? Hi Capricorns, and welcome to your Twin Flame series, starting with July this year. So how this works is the messages are targeted to Capricorns and cross watchers. So if it is not for you, it is for some other Capricorn, so let that by, and the others could be for you. And again, just get your private reading and you will see the difference. So my dear Capricorn, let's start. Let us see what is hidden away from you that still has to come. Look at this, Two of Cups and the Sun reversed. What did I interestingly, actually looks like I dialed the entire deck in reverse, and that is significance in itself. I did it many times in my life when I did this deck in reverse, so it looks like you're going to have many reversals over here. And many times I debated if I should continue with this or not, but we'll see. We have, whoa, the Sun reversed, Two of Cups reversed, and a child. Well, the Sun also talks about marriages and children. Two of Cups definitely talks about the love affair and sort of like union, but not the strongest lover, sort of like presence is there. And then we have the child again. But these two guys have been reversed. So something that is hidden from you could be that maybe this person is married. Maybe this person has some obligations towards someone. This is really telling me that something here is kind of like falling apart. But there is like still some kind of glue, which could be a child. There's still kind of like could be some kind of like obligations, because the Sun card also talks about complete burnout, kind of like unwillingness, not necessarily unwillingness, it's like lying down having migraine. You just cannot bring yourself to kind of go somewhere. So you are maybe not lying and inventing that you don't want to go. You maybe really cannot go. You'll see how this kind of like revolves further. But interesting thing is like this is 18 and this is 18. I'm really hoping that there is no hidden pregnancy. There is no hidden child over here. And the Two of Cups reversed is really puzzling me, because there is telling me that soul contract is over. That's one of those cards. And hence, one of the parties is not aware of that. And one of the parties is thinking about the other one, and hence is continuing this kind of like flow of these flames. So let's actually see what is out in the open. And again, we have the High Priestess and the Star and Thief. The High Priestess, to me, also can talk about a child and a secret child. But was there a situation where there was another person that was involved, and maybe somebody here feels devastated? Like the Thief card really talks about massive betrayal, right? It is like sort of like when you really think something was meant to be, when you really think, look at this guy, he kind of like has it, he kind of like is trying to put his best clothes forward, but then like, you know, others really didn't have respect to what this person is kind of bringing to the table. The entire combination, and especially this card, is kind of like really challenging and sort of like negative, like that foggy, distant alley, kind of like gas lamps. It's kind of giving me a really kind of like icky feeling. So it's some kind of loss that I see here, I mean, Thief can talk about so much, not only material, but also emotional. But I'm kind of like feeling, the worst part here is some kind of like loss of hope. It's in abstract way, when you look at it, it kind of like talks about something that has been taken away, removed, separated. There is like sort of like a huge distance over here. You see, the High Priestess is like this, thinking about somebody, kind of connecting, experiencing this. But in this combination, because these two cards are reversed, it's telling me that, you know, you should be really warned. It is definitely, you're definitely missing somebody out. You're missing them. But also, I think you're really very well aware about some kind of dishonesty. And, you know, I don't know, maybe it's also issue that you feel this is kind of like permanent. And here I also see like somehow the things that were supposed to work kind of like didn't work for some reason. And another thing that is really interesting, 17 and 2 is 19, and this is a 19 card. So this is like really clarifying the situation. I really feel, Capricorn, that your twin flame really played a game with you. This actually is very sad if this is what happened. That somebody took you almost for a fool. And these two guys were reversed. You see, the High Priestess is kind of like all-knowing. She kind of doesn't talk much. She kind of like is more or less trying to see if you can, you know, if she can, there is actually no gender to her. If, you know, you can be let into that secret world, which to me sort of like equals with, you know, marriage and unity between people. there is like a sense that the hope is lost, but also that the healing is really not taking place. Somebody here really feels ridiculed, and that's a really not a nice situation to be in. Let's see what were the reasons behind this. We have the moon, whoa, two majors. We have the temperance, and here are the two majors. So something really karmic is happening here. Like so far you have 5 majors out of like 6 cards. It's kind of like ridiculous. Then you have concern. I see the moon is talking about something hidden. And I don't know, guys, in terms of astrology, I'm seeing fire signs, I'm seeing air signs, I'm seeing water signs over here. In particularly, I'm also seeing Leo, Aquarius, Pisces, and Sagittarius, and possibly Cancer. So the moon is always talking of something that is not involved. And again, I'm seeing here there are a whole bunch of secrets over here. And somebody here had that fortitude of trying to make them work, because look, somebody just didn't want to admit that there is darkness and said, no, 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 there is sunshine, I see the sunshine, right? It is like impossible to make things work if one party is not participating in that. And look at this, you have a major over here, sort of like 33 over here. And we have again this 18, like this keeps repeating. So you have a 9, you have 6. These are all kind of like numbers that are talking about really human relations. I think this entire reason here for you was to sort of like, you see this like beautiful calla lilies here that he has, to kind of like really contemplate what kind of situation did you really find yourself in, and is it really worthwhile? It's sort of like the entire thing kind of left you puzzled, because I really feel that you have been giving a lot in this particular situation, but you haven't been met, you haven't been returned with the same. It's kind of like, you know, like when you try to kind of come close to a person and you tell them everything that you like, and let's say you have, you know, a little dog with you, you go for a walk and you tell them, oh my gosh, I like your jacket. You're trying to find this like few points that you really can develop with this person. And what this person does, oh, I hate dogs. So right off the bat, like, looks like they're trying to cut those cords anywhere that kind of like are being established for some reason. And this concern probably could be a good news. It is kind of like telling me that you were not completely clueless, because sure, it is a challenging card. Maybe you were dealing with somebody who is older, but definitely maybe you have been dealing with somebody who kind of like has, you know, anxiety, right? Somebody who is like not even looking at this kind of like beautiful light. So just as I told you in that example, you know, somebody who can just like see the dark things. Maybe this is you, because I also see angst over here and confusion, inability to focus, and no wonder with kind of like these two very shadowy cards. It kind of like also talks about not knowing where we stand and yet hoping for the best, because the temperance is always saying, hey, I can create anything, but then humans say, hey, beware what you wish for, kind of a thing. Because, you know, maybe they're like sort of like fears that are generating, because you see this is 33, which is making a 6, and this is 24, so these two cards are definitely related. Fears of losing someone, fears of not actually having information, you know. It is maybe really simply a fear, oh my gosh, this is not going to work out, and you really badly want it. You know, in kind of like relationship issues, it sort of like talks about pessimism, you know, worries. It is kind of like really a message here to try to find clarity. And then I see somebody was really trying. So it actually can talk about rejection and worry, but also very much about deception and confusion, or even lack of freedom. That's to me always panicky and desperate card. And look at this, she's like looking at him and saying, don't go there, it is not you. It is kind of like very it's kind of like signaling lost hope, which kind of like we had over here. Gosh, I don't like it. But these are healing series, guys. It is better to unearth everything so we can kind of like go through it. Kind of, these are kind of like difficult cards that explain the situation. So let's see what kind of guidance you're getting. Wow. You're getting a really good guidance, guys. It was meant for you to experience this, because you have learned how it feels not feeling right, feeling loss. Maybe this child over here is representing your inner child, you know, like where you might be a full-grown adult, but with this person you're feeling maybe inadequate, maybe you're feeling you're not on par, maybe you're feeling lesser of the two. Guidance is clearly saying stop doing it. This is extremely powerful message that you're getting. And you're getting another 17, which is here. It's like that hope card. It's telling you if hope is lost, everything is lost. You need to insist. And there is like this moon. Look, he's actually almost creating the sun over here, right? You see the day is coming on. This card really talks about standing your ground, looking from the higher perspective, looking not only how this relates between you and that person, looking at how this really relates on sort of like universal principle. Was there somebody who really thought, well, I did a good thing and I don't care about how this affects other people? Or did you really feel that you always have to be the one who have to earn something? Can something be given to you? Or did you feel that you were giving so much and somebody was just like taking it? Because the Magician is saying, look, you actually do have it within your power. You do have a vision. Look, infinite vision. Guys, this is a really good card to get. It is talking about that you kind of have answers and you have all the tools that you need in this situation. It's not like that cat is going to tell you, well, you know what, you need to get energy sessions from me, so let's try to balance this chakra, or let's kind of like go into these kind of like past life readings to unearth more things. Sure, that can be deeper analysis, but on the surface, to deal with the situation, you guys already know what you need to do. And I can't wait to read your actually comments on this one. Almost looks like you very soon will be presented with some kind of gift. This is extremely positive card, and finally I'm so glad to see it after having this kind of like range of like what the heck is going on here. Right, so this gift can be, of course, it can be just definitely a physical gift, right? Receipt of something from somebody. But then also you have to ask, wait a minute, am I getting this gift? Is this like somebody is buying me? Remember how I was talking about giving and sharing. So is it worthwhile? You actually are going to almost like examine that with X-ray vision, right? But there is definitely talking about some kind of joy. It's kind of like timing that I can kind of really see that, because look at this kind of like gloss on, because in Kipper, and these cards are called Kipper, they also indicate timing, and this is like talking about something by the next holiday of any sort. So I don't know in which part of the country you are. In Canada, and today is the 22nd of June, the closest holiday will be Canada Day. That's the 1st of July. In the US, it's going to be the 4th of July. So this is basically saying that something is already progressing over there to that point. You see, you had the sun over here that kind of has been reversed. So it was like already somebody was restarting something without you being even included, right? But you're still going through sort of like, let's say, the ripples of everything that has been happening. Like you're going through this like thought pattern, you're like obsessing about it, and instead of healing, you keep scratching on that wound and then it keeps bleeding. But very soon, it seems to me that there is going to be snap, kind of like snap into something completely new, right? This is kind of like really talking about stopping being helpless, pardon me, and actually becoming very helpful to the others, and sort of like almost engaging. You might also, guys, be involved in some kind of like charities, and it's going to give you a better perspective on maybe better vision. I don't know if currently you're also transitioning to a new job, because that's going to happen. This is definitely taking the edge off these kind of like negative cards. And honestly, I have to tell you, this is like a kudos to you, Capricorn. Like, looks like you have been going through something extremely difficult. Almost like it's palatable, the desperation, it's palatable pain that you have been going through. And don't think just because I'm talking that I don't feel it. I do. I just like don't think that crying would be helpful for you right now. Me for you, or you for you. Crying can help. I always tell my clients, you know what? It's like a rain. It cleans things. But it has its limits, because it's not supposed to kind of like become a flood. I also kind of like feel, and we'll see if kind of like significator comes through, I also feel in this situation that maybe you're going to give a gift to yourself, and it's a gift of seeing things differently, of approaching things differently. So let's see which things were just completely wrong, what things need to be developed, what was just not sustainable in this situation. Wow. You're having these master numbers in these readings. You're having 11s, you have 33s. I'm noticing this as well. So you have the Chariot. Some, again, I'm seeing Cancer, Wheel of Fortune, which kind of like relates to planet Jupiter, which is usually represented with Sagittarius. But again, you have two major arcanas over here. So right now, this is telling me, like, really, this is also one of my karma cards. This is a highly charged karmic situation. The Chariot is an interesting card. And this is talking about that somebody really wanted to, they wanted to be on their own. Somebody was gambling maybe something. And look at here, you have also 777. And the gamble kind of like really exploded in everybody's face over here. See, the Chariot is one of those cards that talks about what happens after you make a choice. A choice. Or the choice, doesn't matter. It simply means that actually you're moving in the direction of this new choice. And here, something was a disaster. Something like you see that would be in a normal situation really lucky, kind of like turn of events. But there was like some kind of gamble going in this direction, and it was a disaster. This is one of those things when you kind of like go on something that you're really looking forward to. You pack your car, and then you have a flat tire. After flat tire, you kind of get some like weird rash. Then after weird rash, you get diarrhea. After that, you know, like, I mean, there's like no room in a hotel. You're sleeping in a car. It's kind of like one of those horrible kind of like Monty Python kind of like events. And like for you, that like, I mean, you have like two majors arcana and 11, this kind of like would be Justice card. I don't know if somebody here was married, because Justice really didn't serve you. You kind of like certain things happen suddenly, but certainly not sudden wealth, right? It's kind of like was the feeling maybe of safety that you had that just like sort of like switched so much, because these two cards are lucky cards. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe you really felt that you were so lucky. Maybe you felt, oh my gosh, I can fly. Like, you know, I'm like sitting here on this kind of like wings. But the truth was that something really, really collapsed. I don't know. In extreme cases, I would say that somebody won lottery and just like vanished with it. All of a sudden, nothing was important. Because they felt, you know, I can make different choices. I mean, that of course can be like really extreme over here, but it's kind of like describing that kind of attitude and that kind of person where, you know, it was complete neglect, and what made him happy all of a sudden didn't make him happy. So let me see here, where is this journey going to take you from this point on? Wow, you have two fours, 4 of Swords reversed and 4 of Pentacles and Despair. You know, 4 is a really guarded energy. 4 is the energy where you're trying to kind of like regain control of your life. 4 is really saying here, you know, maybe you're running away from your problems, or maybe just simply creating these walls. This is kind of like really interesting card over here, because look what we see over here. This woman is really looking down, and he's actually really not looking straight at her. It's kind of like, it's definitely showing the sort of like, there is some kind of passion over here, but there is not a real connection over here. Like you see, this is the key over here, like sort of like the boundaries are set. Yeah, sure, you know, we erect walls when we are kind of like hurt. And I really think this is you, and this is kind of like really telling you, look guys, if you think that this is a knee-jerk reaction, that's not going to end well. This kind of like despair is again going together with all these other cards saying, look, you know what, it can actually get worse to where you were, and what you have been doing is not a solution, right? I don't know, it almost like tells me that you really want to scream. It almost tells me that not scream out of anger, but instead you're turning this anger inside, and that's basically what this is, right? It's kind of grieving. Maybe you need to give yourself to grieve sometime. Did you do that? Or have you been just kind of like trying to catch up with what has been going on? You know, this is like something really heavy. There is like definitely some kind of obstacles and frustration. But also, as I said, it almost like gives me this kind of like feeling of huge anger and of huge jealousy, right? But keep in mind that here in the guidance you have extremely positive card. So we were talking about the choices, which path to take. So maybe you know already which path is going to take you in this direction. It is like something that maybe you should kind of like think through it. So let me see the messages from your twin flame. Wow. They cut it off. Queen of Swords reversed and the Judgment reversed. And then again you have another 1129. You see, Queen of Swords, and I don't know if you're dealing with Aquarius, you're dealing with the air sign. This can also be a Gemini or Libra. But look at that. She just doesn't care anymore what happened. She's kind of like leaving this in the past. Because the Judgment is also something from the past. Judgment is really talking about things that need to be brought to the surface, that need to be clear, that you need to kind of like deal with. But when it's reversed, it's also telling me that they knew that they did something wrong. They've wronged you. They are really clear on that one. If anything kind of like means to you, this is like what they want you to know, right? It's also very challenging, especially when it comes to this imprisonment card, because of course maybe your mate is literally in prison, and there is like this harshness of that separation that is happening here. But really, this is really telling me about somebody not communicating and being trapped, whether this was a relationship or job or situation. This is also a message that talks about fear and saying, I also want to heal. You know, I didn't have any other court cards that can kind of like confirm that there is like somebody in jail. So this is like what I think. It's really talking about dealing with some kind of like fundamental issues, maybe facing something that is like insurmountable. You know, these are all kinds of like isolations and renunciation. You maybe are just simply like, they are also experiencing that unfulfilled love, relationship, something that had a whole bunch of, I don't know, restrictions or resignations. There is like some kind of like forced restraint. That can actually talk about emotional imprisonment. It simply means being trapped in maybe personal or contractual relationship. This is definitely to me talking about huge feelings of guilt. They knew the right thing from the wrong, and I can see it here. This simply can be as they have been choosing somebody else over you because of the child. That can be just simple as that. But the way they did it was to leave you devastated. The way they did it was a harsh cutting off. And one day you were happy, another day you were very unhappy. That's what I see. And hence, because there is no closure, it is like really hard to move, and there are a whole bunch of things swirling. But would you feel better if this person tells you, I love you? Would you feel better? It actually probably would make it worse. They definitely think that they did the best, what they could in that situation. Look at this. You have 3 master numbers. You have 2 cards of hope. And you have 2 cards that are relating to relationships, but 2 out of 4, these are 2 that are sort of like negative ones. So this entire relationship has been sort of like a self-discovery for you. You need to kind of like feel a little bit more like a Gemini energy. It's kind of like more or less trying to have a conversation with you, trying to see both sides of the issue. That conversation that you can have with yourself will be actually very helpful in the situation to kind of give you clarity. You know, maybe even write a letter, like almost as if your twin flame is writing you a letter, and write there what you want to hear and read it for yourself. That can be sort of like giving yourself a closure, because I definitely see there is like a definitely sense of, oh my gosh, what's happening with me? Can I even survive? So let me see what karma tells you. You have 2 of Wands. You have 8 of Cups. Oh my gosh, we have Judication. So somebody could actually be in prison. That's another karma card here. This definitely is twin flame. And with 2 of Wands, we kind of like see that. 2 of Wands is kind of like something that talks about, wait, you don't even understand this right now, but there is like something going through a situation that sort of indicates a partial success. It's not necessarily go kind of card. With this card, you're still not really going, but you're kind of like definitely in this preparation. You're coming up with a plan, and the plan seems to be actually really already working in your head, so you just can't wait to implement it. But you know, the past is still kind of calling you. It's kind of like still very hard for you to walk away. There's like a still that kind of like essence of, you know, that loss. It's kind of like still essence. Okay, why? And why me? I don't know. Could that be talking about somebody being really imprisoned, or maybe talking about even divorce? Maybe, you know, this was your marriage where maybe you wanted children to be kind of like taken in account in the situation, and you know, somebody just like really didn't care. Things just like went on the fritz, and the secrets were the ones that sort of like undermined this like whole union. That simply can mean that, because this card is actually very neutral, but it can be sort of like challenging, because this person also has the all tools and sort of like ability to create somebody's destiny, right, in their own hands, right? That definitely can talk about government and bureaucrats and school boards and, I don't know, zoning boards, professional advisors. It can be a fine, it can be a fee, but definitely, like, if you kind of like translate this to everything, that also can mean, you know, therapist or negotiator, and it's kind of going for the resolution of a disagreement or problem. So hence it could mean maybe that you need therapy, because you need to kind of address what it is. I think you're getting angry, some of you. I'm getting those messages, and that's good. Anger, when I see in patients, is a really good thing. It almost like means it's already done. You are already almost there. You just like need to get it out of your system. But if, you know, rain of tears is what right now feels that you need to do, so be it. You know, it can have the healing kind of circumstances as well. Now, this also talks about all participants in the role, right? And this card could be difficult, but it's telling that, you know, the matter is going to be resolved. You're actually moving on, and It doesn't mean that necessarily the outcome is going to be something you're going to like, but it's definitely telling me that there is like this motion forward. It's almost like reaching some kind of finality. And I think you're like really aware of that this is like new cycle that is starting. And to some extent, you already have some plans and some vision about that. But sort of like you also feel kind of like concerned within that parameters that you have. I have to tell you, this is one of the more difficult readings that I had, and it is really hard to feel composed and think through it, because I keep thinking and having these flashes of people crying and screaming and saying why, and we all have been there, and this really feels very raw over here, and I wish I'm there to give you a really big hug, which I can't. That's all I can do. But I can actually draw one more card and just give you advice. And I really hope to hear from you. Trust me, writing comments is like, you know, the river of tears. It kind of cleans and clears. And it's always good to just simply tell your story. It's very therapeutic. So I invite you to do that. So what message is there for? There you go. It already knows. Flying. Okay, so let's see what flying is. It says, you have the power to see things from a higher perspective. Did I not tell you at some point? You kind of like, you shouldn't be looking like down from where you are, because there is a much bigger message in this, and that's why you had all these major arcanas. This is what it says. If you were a bird flying high in the air, what would you see? When you soar above life challenges and opportunities, a new perspective becomes available. Today, you have invisible wings that allow you to swiftly bring your circumstances into alignment with your highest purpose. This is a sign that your waiting is over, that all your hard work has paid off, and the things you have hoped for are no longer beyond your scope. You have the ability to reach for the stars and find one with your name on it. Spread your wings and soar. The angels are waiting for you. And I'm so glad you got this one, because you guys, you have to understand that you guys have some new challenges, and some of them are going to be simply beautiful. You are no longer the part of this maze, and maybe this is kind of like a good description. You know, I have been blind, but now I can see. I'm no longer a part of this maze. I can actually spread my wings and fly. So dear Capricorn, if this was not you, I'm almost glad. To kind of, if you want me to check kind of like the relationship between you and your twin, sure, just contact me via my website, cattarot.ca. There are also student readings that currently they're like in the final stages of the school in the last month, and they're kind of practicing, and you can see it in a description about that. And until the next time, you know that I love you, right? All the best.